This one is used for job costing, because when we talk about job costing, it is a method of accounting that tracks the cost associated with projects or jobs. So like I told us during QuickBooks, that what accounting software called project is job. I don't know why, but that's the word they use to refer to projects. They call project jobs. So your jobs, you must know, be able to track your revenue. You must be able to track, because it's just like you're doing work for somebody. Maybe it's building work, like the ones engineers, they need to know how much they have spent, so at the end of the project, they know how much they make, not to just close eye and do venture into such business without having clear picture of what and what. So in Sage 50, this is a feature here that allows you as an accountant to monitor the profitability of each project, and not just to monitor the profitability of each project. You will also be able to identify areas where cost can be reduced. It's important. So when we look into this, there are always key components of job costing, especially in Sage 50. The first component is the word jobs. You can see it here, jobs. The second component is the word faces. And the third component is what we call cost code. For jobs, jobs represent, like I said, individual projects. When we talk about projects, every project must have a start date and an end date. So if a project does not have a start and end date, it doesn't qualify it as a job, because it must end, it must start, and it must end. Every job, these are characteristics of what considers a project to be set up as a job in Sage 50. Every job must have the job owner. Some, depending on the industry, they have terminologies they refer to. Sometimes when we walk around, we'll see some governmental project. When you look, maybe the billboard that is there, you might see contractor. You see the name of the contractor. Then you now see where there will be something like project owner. Maybe it's now the government. Or if it's for a community, you see the name of the community. So if you don't want to call it job, you can, job owner, you can call it project owner, you can call it customers, you can call it clients, you can call it clients, you can call it customers, whatever the name that will fit you. But what you just have to know is that as far as job costing, which is a method of accounting that tracks the cost associated with those projects, is concerned, the first component is jobs. You must understand the jobs you're bringing in to set up here. So you need to know what is the nature of the job. When is the end date for this job? Who are the owners of this job? The informations for those owners. We call them customers. Then you look at the estimated cost, because that's what concerns you. So you'll be able to identify areas where those costs can be reduced. So the second component is what we call phases. Now, what we do in phases is that we come and divide that project into phases, because believe me, if we are saying we want to identify areas where costs can be reduced in a project, then you have to divide that project into phases. That's how you can, track the cost and manage the cost. You have to divide it, and that's why Sage 50 provides these phases here. Number 3 is what we call cost codes. Now, cost codes There are codes we use to categorize cost within a phase. I'll give us an example. You have divided your project now into different phases. That's quite fine. Now that you have divided it, you need to be able to provide the detailed cost breakdown for each phase. To do that, you need to assign codes to those costs. That's why it's here. Of course, we have different type of cost, which you as an accountant should be able to now classify your cost, especially your expenses, in different types. If we look at a project, it could be labor, it could be materials, it could be overhead, and all of that, as far as your financial analysis is concerned. Okay, let's look at an example now, because I always use construction company explanation for project management and job related lectures. Now, a construction company can decide that they want to, in fact, many construction companies that I've met uses Sage 50. Majority of them, they make use of Sage 50. I recall when I was working with Roton Energy and Logistics in Lekki. It was Sage 50 they were using, because when I got there, even before I was employed then as the accountant, the group accountant, I think I could remember I met one South African, the discussion was majorly on Sage. It was, when I got there, I found out that they needed it for proper, accounts records and all of that. So what I'm trying to say is that such construction company can use this software Sage 50 to track the cost of their service, depending on what they focus on. There are construction companies whose service area is on building of schools, houses, roads, construction, and all of that. If it's building of house, for example, they have to use Sage 50 to track the cost of building a house. Now, what they have to do, what you, not even them, because you are the accountant, what you have to do is to come here and set up a job for that house they are building. Let's say that house is local government secretariat building. You will now come, like in Etiosa, where I am, you will now come and use your Sage as the accountant to do what? See how you can. First, you set up a job, a project for that house. Then create phases. Now, house. Let's go to our this. Let me show you something. Because when we look at the house, you know how a house is. This is a building. Now, in this building, if we want to build this building, if you call an engineer now, or an architect that drew this building, they will start from the foundation. Because if you look at this building, it's beautiful, yes. But in our eye, as an accountant now, we are going to cost every aspect of it. So what you do, if this was the contract that was awarded to a construction company, you, the accountant, will set up a job for this house. You now go and create phases for the foundation, which is the first, to the framing of the foundation, to the electrical construction, to the plumbing activities, which will be done in that same time they are doing the foundation. They will be, arranging all those plumbing and all of that. That's how you'll be going. You're going to the, I don't know what they call this other one. They now start laying the blocks up. These are phases. The roofing. Roofing is a phase of its own. Now you understand what phases are. Roofing is a phase. Plastering is a phase, because all these phases incur cost. So all these phases are what you will set up your job for. You now create phases for them. You create phases for foundation, for framing, for electrical, for plumbing, for plastering, for roofing and tiling and all of that. To do this, you need to now use your account codes. We call it cost codes. It is the cost codes you now use because there will be labor is also another aspect. Labor, materials is also it. Subcontract, because most times you may subcontract some other aspects to some other local vendors. You understand? So those ones are to be done. So when you're able to do this setup, you'll be able to track your expenses. And when you're tracking your expenses, where you are now looking at your phases and your cost code, there's no how a company can't determine the profitability of the project. They will. They will also be able to identify areas where costs are actually exceeding their estimate, because a budget will now be needed. Remember when we went to set up budget? So that means you now have to set up a budget for projects. You now have to do that. So how do we perform job costing here in Sage 50? The first thing we have to do is to click on this word jobs. Once you click on it, it's going to bring up a new screen for jobs, which is this. Job ID, this is the first job. Description of the job, you come here, we'll say building, Etiosa Secretariat, LGA Secretariat, building. Now that we have done this, you will now come and define those phases I talked about for this project. That's why you tick, it will be on tick, so you tick it that yes, I want to use phases to track this project in more detail. I told us some of the characteristics of every project. Start date. So you come here and state it out. Maybe this project is starting today, 7th August. When is the projected end date? It has been projected to end, let's say it's a kind of a 6-month project. So we can say up to, or okay, let's just bring it down, but let's just say 30th of November. Actual end date, we can say, let's also extend this to December 5th as the actual. In case with the projected end date, we're not able to meet up with it. What's the job status? You come here and change this in progress because it's not yet completed. Pending if it has not started. Once you're done with this, the next thing you have to do, you come here, what's the type of job? These have to have been set up. Okay, you select the type of job. If it has been completed, you put all of that. Now there are some jobs that are being brought forward. You know, maybe it was not completed last year and all of that. If this associated to such job, then you have to come here and click on job beginning balance and enter the balance for it. We have to set up the job first. Supervisor. Now, who is the client this job, this project belong to? You now come to, for customer, select the client. So let's say this is a project that is by the Lagos State government. So I'll click new. Since I've not entered that client before, I'll click on my new, and then I wait for some minutes, let it load up and bring me the customer dashboard. So right here, I'm going to give an ID to this client, and we say Lagos State Government. Once I'm done with this, we'll then fill in all other information. But the notable one is for you to come to your sales info, GL sales accounts. You link your income. So it could be construction income or whatever income you should have created, okay, to it. Then you save. can fill in all other information where you save. So once you do this, we can now assign this project that is, it belongs to Lagos State government. And you know, Sage makes use of account codes. That's why we have that. So you fill in the address, the location of this project, this job, and all other information. Every project normally is supposed to have a supervisor. So maybe the supervisor of this project is Mr. Ibrahim. Mr. Ibrahim. So you also do that, Mr. Ibrahim, because when we are setting up our accounts, chart of accounts, we also have like supervisor's cash. Cite supervisor's cash because most times cash will also be disbursed to him over there to manage the activities, work activities there. So we'll come, once we are done with this now, the next thing we'll do is to come and establish the cost codes to categorize those expenses. Since we have defined, we have initiated that we want to define phases for this project. So we'll now come and click on estimated expenses and revenue notes. For these other ones here are customizable information. Maybe there are other information you want to provide. Okay, like the work phone number, supervisor's contract date of the job, and all of that you can provide it. But what's important now is to establish your cost codes. So you come here, click on estimated expenses and revenue. On this box below, you now come and give the face. First, face ID. Which ID do you want to give to your face? So we talked about foundation. So when you click inside here, come down, choose new. It's going to open the face dashboard. Face ID 1, description, foundation. So once you have done this, it's asking you, this face uses the cost type labor. Foundation will be others. So maybe this foundation might be all okay. We can say others because it covers, maybe the cost will cover the cost of the foundation or what they need for the foundation. So if you want to now separate them, maybe this for foundation materials and all of that, that's fine. But you can decide to say, okay, others. Then we are also told that this phase uses cost code. You tick it. Yes, it uses cost code if you want to go with cost code instead of cost type. Do you understand? So if we are doing that, we'll then come and say save. Then we'll now create another 2, description. This one can be electrical. Save. So if you want to add more, you'll be clicking save and new, save and new. So 3, this will be for plumbing. Save and new. Then plaster roofing. Roofing. So also say save. If you want to go with new, fine. Once you're done, click on your list so you can be able to view them. So you can see we have our roofing, we have our plumbing, we have our electrical, we have our foundation. Roofing, will edit it. How do you edit? Right click, choose view face detail. We are going to edit it to cost codes. I've told us what cost codes are used for. So once you have done this, you click on your save. So if you go back to lists, you will now see that we have now established cost codes to help us categorize these expenses. So once this has been done, we'll close. Then we'll close this. So here, face ID will then come to see how we can, get everything here. So have we saved those so that we can have it here? So let's just click on our find. We say 1. We don't have that. So come to your okay. So we are going to bring up all the faces. It had to refresh. So I had to double click cost code ID and I come back here. So you can see them. So the first is foundation. The second will come here. So for foundation now, what's the number of units? So let's say the number of units is 1000. depending on what you want to track, maybe the blocks and all of that. Expenses, you now put the cost. Maybe it's going to cost us 500 or 5 million. Are you seeing it? The cost. Forget about the revenue. Come down to the next here. The next phase we talked about is electrical. Electrical is going to cost us. Now, as you're doing it, please be assigning cost code to it. So for this, there is no cost code. You come down, you click on new. You click on new. So once you come here, the first thing we have to do is to create our cost codes. Okay, so that we can, see how everything works perfectly. So we can say this is 001. We come to description. We say foundation. Save and new. 002. Electrical. Save and new. 003. Plumbing. Save and new. 004. Roofing. Save. Then you go to list here to confirm that they have been saved. So you can see foundation, electrical, plumbing, roofing. And once that's done, you close and then you close. So for each of them, we'll then assign it. So same way, click outside the box that can refresh in. Then you come back here, then you select foundation, you select electrical. So for the next one, we said the next one is plumbing. The cost code is going to be what? Plumbing. Then for this, you select roofing. The cost code is going to be what? Roofing. So we're rounding up with this. So the number of units, if that's important, but if it's not important, you can just bring it our 00. Then the cost, this is where you now enter the amount. So let's say this is 1.2 million for electrical. Then for our plumbing, we are going to have, maybe our plumbing is going to be 1.1 million. Then we also have for our roofing is going to be 3 million. Okay, so depending on how this is, that's okay. So we can now see the total cost is 10,300,000. That's the cost is going to take us 10.3 million. 10.3 million. 10.3 million. So this is the cost is going to take us for us to be able to do this. The total cost. So if we say revenue now, depends on what we are now saying they should pay. Then we'll know that then that's now going to be the revenue. Because we can come here and say, okay, the revenue is 20 million. This is what they are to pay us. So we now know that we should be having that here and all of it. But for the cost, we can't include that. So we are only interested on the cost for each phases. That's how we have it this way. So this is how we establish our cost codes, our phases, and also enter the amount for the amount for the different cost expense. So once you're done with this, the next thing you now do is to save. Once you save, anytime you save, click on list to confirm what you've saved, to be sure it is there. Of course, you can see it. Description, Etielsa Secretariat Building. Supervisor is Mr. Ibrahim. Who is the client? The icon number for the client is 06. Project will start 7th of August. Projected end date 30th of November. It's still pending. So whenever this project starts, you have to come back, double click on it, come to, let's say it has kicked off, you say in progress. Then you go back with save. So that's how you have to do. Now, I always tell students that there are three things you will do after you've set up a project. Three things. It's not just about setting up the project, defining the phases, establishing the course code. No, the course code helps you to track. Fine. But three things you have to do after this level. The first is for you to track your project cost. All these costs, you must track them. You must track your project cost. You must monitor your project progress. It's very important. And lastly, you have to make adjustments. What do I mean? Our time is almost up. This is 7. Tracking your job cost. What I mean is this. Let's say today is a new day. We are done with this setup of job project. Today is a new day. And you are told that in the site, so quantity of materials have been purchased. You have to come and do the posting. You have to come and post it. So if we are doing that now, what do you think we'll do? If we are using our, let's say, want to, old traditional method, making journal, okay, we don't want to do that. We want to, let's say, sand or cement came directly from Dangote. Where do we go to? We'll go to vendors and purchases. We'll click on what? Maybe we want to order for it. So we'll say purchase order, new purchase order. Who is this vendor? We say Dangote. Dangote is not here. So if it was here, let's assume Dangote was Juliet. So we'll say Juliet. We'll now come to quantity. How many quantity of cement? We say we want 10,000 bags. We'll now come inside item and select cement. That means cement should have been set up. So we'll now select cement. We'll now move. Put the unit price, everything will be there. Then this place we have job. You will now select this cement you're buying is for which project. That's why job is always in all forms. If I click inside it now, inside job now, you find that it will be showing me to select the job because we have a job. We have a job already. You can see it. Etiosa. So if I take this now and I click on OK, the first thing I have to do, you see why Faces is good. Instead of just saying that we are buying this 10,000 cement for the entire project, with Faces, you can click on this little icon here in the name of the project and specify this 10,000 bag of cement is for which phase of the project. Is it for foundation phase or electrical? Maybe it's wires. Wiring. You can't just assign it to overall. No. That's why fraud always comes in. If the government have a breakdown report for every phase of construction project, it will help. But they just do because they know that they are not open to audit, all this public sector and all of that. So accountability becomes an issue. So this is the right format on how things should be done. Phases, especially for construction. Now that we say 10,000, for which phase of the project is this money going to be spent? This quantity of this cement. So we say foundation. We select foundation. Even in foundation, you can break it down and select what? Foundation. And that's it. So while you're doing this, you'll then be able to, assuming we record this now, what do you think will happen? Because we will continue this class tomorrow. What do you think will happen? It will be captured. At the end of the period, we'll be able to track this cost. Be able to track it. So tracking your project cost first demands you to record your project cost by entering those, transactions. You post your material cost as they are used or purchased. You allocate overhead expenses to projects based on the predefined methods we have set up. After that, you now monitor your project progress. You use your project status update to track project completion. You review your project cost report to assess profitability. The report is here. See a report called jobs. That's project reports. You can see a lot of reports over there for you to just be able to do what? do a review to assess profitability. And where there is any area of concern, what do? You now modify, that previous estimates we did. Modify your job estimates or the cost. You analyze your cost variance. All these reports are there. You analyze it. You can open our job profitability report. If postings have been made, be able to analyze our variance to identify those areas for improvement we're talking about. So this is important, very important. Job costing. You ask me, sir, what are the benefits of job costing in Sage 50? Number one benefit is that it improves profitability. When you track your costs accurately, believe me, you can identify profitable and unprofitable projects. We know that when we talk about decisions, there are different levels. We have the operational level, we have the tactical level, we have the strategic level of decision. And this also helps because there is what real-time data does for you. Real-time data, helps you in making informed decisions about maybe your pricing, can talk about resource allocation, which is a challenge we are having also in the country. There are protests there, but that's a challenge, resource allocation. Because why are they having that challenge of resource allocation? Because the government lacks real-time data. If they have real-time data, they won't have that challenge. We looked at a report that Edo State, the bags of rice that was allocated, we saw a video during the week that they found it in a particular place. If there was real-time data, wouldn't they have known if the citizens or the people, Edo State people, have received the bag of rice and all of that? Project management. We have a lot of projects that are not well managed in the country because of no proper job costing. Job costing helps in terms of decision making. We can't talk about job costing without talking about cost control. And as far as cost control is concerned, as an accountant, you need to monitor your project cost, because when you monitor your project cost, it helps you in identifying cost overruns. And that way you'll be able to take corrective actions. So these are important. So this is where we'll be rounding up. Thank you for joining. See you in our next class tomorrow.